Well, the Spurs have started the season 5-4, and they're looking kind of good and sometimes kind of bad. Welcome to the Spurs Roundtable, powered by Project Spurs. I am your host, Jeff Garcia, and alongside of me is Aaron Prine. And Aaron, 5-4. You know, last season, the Spurs didn't get their fourth loss until December. Time to bite the nails and start sweating a little bit if you're a Spurs fan?
Of an 82-game season? Absolutely not.
All right. So, well, how do you think so far? 9 games, 5-4. They went 3-1 in the recent West Coast trip, so.
Yeah, it's a nice little turnaround after considering how they started and the whole debacle with Houston with the Restgate and that nonsense. The Spurs, the big issue for them was the turnovers. They were turning it over so many times, almost around 20, 18 on average. They knocked it down. They took better control of the ball. The problem is now is they're still struggling to shoot. They're 26 in the NBA as three-point percentage and only 25th in overall field goal percentage.
You know, I want to touch on the turnover issue. You know, you saw games early in the season where they're coughing the ball up 20-plus times. I mean, it was almost embarrassing. I don't even know how they
Very lazy passing.
Very lazy passing. But with a team that is pretty much the same from last year, why did we see those turnover issues? You would think with everybody on the same page, you know, everybody's spots where they run
Everybody's on the same page, but not everybody's on the floor. I mean, you're missing several guys. Thiago Splitter's out for we don't know how long. Marco Bellinelli out with the strained groin. Patty Mills is going to be out probably until February or March. So Tim Duncan.
But even so, you still have those practices. You still have that, you know, off the court, you know, run-throughs, play-by-plays, you know, walkthroughs, and you still saw the turnovers. I mean, it looked, and for a minute there, I thought maybe they were kind of having that attitude like, hey, we're the big bad Spurs, and we can pretty much do what we want.
I do think a little bit of complacency is the issue, a title hangover, if you will. But I also think the the goodwill tour over in Europe kind of threw them off for a little bit. They got banged up. Kawhi Leonard was dealing with the eye issue. He's still not 100%, even though he's playing better. I think it's just a lot of little things, and it's taken a little while to get going, but they'll get going.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the Kawhi injury with the eye. You know, there's always been Thiago Splitter and his calf issue again. He's pretty much had this issue since his start of the NBA career.
Right.
You have Bellinelli, who got the groin injury. You have, of course, you know, who else is out? Patty Mills. So have they been missing these guys? And if there's one guy you can say right now who they miss the most, who that be?
Oh, Thiago Splitter, because his presence, especially on defense, has been sorely missed. Also on offense, he's not a guy you think of when it comes on offense because he's not a big scorer, he's not a big passing guy. But the thing is, he works extremely well in the pick and roll, the pick and pop game with San Antonio. You know, he's a good passer.
Yeah,
so
and that's good defense.
Big miss.
And I think it's hard for me to struggle when I think of who's the bigger loss, Splitter or Mills. And I throw Mills in the pack in there because you just mentioned it earlier. The Spurs are struggling to shoot from the outside. They don't have that consistent threat out there. Matt Bonner, he's pretty much been a non-factor so far. He played a little bit against Sacramento, but still, where are you going to get that offense from? Where are you going to get that reliable shooting threat off the bench? Bonner can give it to you sometimes. Kyle Anderson.
You have more options to make up for Patty Mills than you do for Thiago Splitter. I mean, look who you have coming in off the bench for Thiago Splitter. Diaw's doesn't offer the same capabilities.
Are you going to throw in Baines, though? I mean, Baines doesn't give you the same defense.
And Baines, Bonner, Ayers, I mean, those guys can't step up to do what Thiago does and what impact he makes. Patty Mills, you have a lot of guys on this team who can shoot threes, who are very deadly shooters. But
we haven't really seen that.
But none of them are contributing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you have more options there to make up for the loss of a Patty Mills, a backup point guard, by the way, as opposed to your starting center.
Right. Well, you know, you're talking about Kawhi Leonard right now in the eye injury. He pretty much, well, he and his camp and the Spurs made some waves recently when the October deadline came and went. And as of right now, this is it. I mean, Kawhi Leonard will be a restricted free agent in the offseason. And when a lot of Spurs fans were biting their fingernails, and I know I was, he comes out and says, you know what? He wants to be a Spur for life, that he doesn't see himself wearing any other jersey other than black and silver. Positive sign, or again, just more posturing, you know, between the two sides?
You know, I think somebody said this before, that there was nothing to worry about. Somebody said there was nothing to worry about here. Yeah. Because
that's Aaron. He's pointing to himself right now.
Yeah, somebody said there's nothing to worry about because the way these two operate, the way Kawhi is, the way the San Antonio Spurs operate, you know, it's going to be quiet. They're going to handle their stuff in-house. I mean, really, the only wave that came about this was Kawhi's agent. He's just doing agent talk. It's not, you know, it's expected.
Right.
No surprise. And Kawhi even said it recently in that recent quote saying he wanted to be a Spurs for life, is that they're going to handle this in the summer. The Spurs have talked to him. So No one's going to complain about it. No one's going to ruffle any feathers. Maybe the agent will say something else that'll be pretty stupid, but he's just doing his job.
I want to dig a little deeper now, and this is just me. It's not that I've heard anything, or trust me, I'm not that well connected in the Spurs thing, but you would wonder that maybe, just maybe, that they are saying, look, there might be a lot more money on the table, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. TD may not be here after this season. So they go off the cap, So maybe that might be more incentive for them to wait off to see what Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili are going to do.
Well, regardless of whoever is going to be here, the Spurs are going to give Kawhi the money that he deserves. He's going to get the max contract that's for his eligibility for the max contract, because it's based on how many years you've been in the NBA. But what's going to be the toughest for the Spurs, though, but I don't think this is going to be an issue if Kawhi wants to be a Spur for life. I don't think he's going to go out there and accept the first contract that's thrown at him, and the Spurs are only going to have 3 days to match. The Spurs are going to have to take care of other issues with their contracts. A lot of other players are going to be free agents. Danny Green, Marco Bellinelli. You don't know what's going to happen with Tim and Manu. So the Spurs are going to have to take care of that first before they take care of Kawhi, because with Kawhi, they can go over to salary cap considering that he's a restricted free agent.
Right.
And they have the bird rights for him, so they can offer an extra year that nobody else can offer. So Kawhi is going to be good.
At this stage of his career, do you really think he gets that franchise label?
Yeah.
Really?
Absolutely.
I look at him and I don't see Duncan. I don't see Robinson. I don't see Kobe. I don't see that kind of, I guess, like a franchise factor, if you will.
How many teams would be willing to pay max contract money to a guy who can defend LeBron James one-on-one in the NBA Finals and do what he did?
So you're opening up that bank.
Yeah.
All right. Spurs, he's going to chip in some of the money for Kawhi. So, Aaron, you want to?
I think I got some quarters in my console in my car.
Maybe that might help. Speaking of Kobe, so he really loves the Spurs, and to the point where he's even jealous, and he openly admits it, that he is jealous about San Antonio, Tim Duncan, Popovich, and their consistency. Wow. This is from the one-time big rival of San Antonio back in the Lakers-Spurs heyday. But at the end of the day, these two guys, Duncan and Kobe, they've had very similar careers in the sense of success on the court. They both won titles. They both got rings. They both been to the All-Star game. They both won MVP trophies. But if you had to say who has been having the better career, who would that be?
I think Kobe alluded to is that consistency with Tim Duncan. You have to go with that because just the way that the Spurs have had to do it. And he even said it's a little bit of a different market, even though he meant it for something else.
I think Spurs fans took it like he was saying that he makes more money or something like that.
With the Lakers, they've had to try to bring in all-stars. They had to try to bring in these one-in-a-lifetime players. They had to bring in Shaq. They tried to they brought in Pau Gasol. They tried to bring in Dwight Howard. That was a failed experiment. But that's how they've had to go about doing it. And for them, it's been hit and miss. With San Antonio, it's been about maintaining a balance and being able to replace the pieces as they go along.
Right. And when I look at the two, I say, look, it's tough. If you have to say who has the better career, I mean, they're like neck and neck. But
I think this day and age,
when I look at when I have to factor in everything, yes, there's supposed issues about Kobe being a chemistry killer. I mean, I think Shaq probably would attest to that. We saw the recent publication about Kobe in his personality and the inability to attract free agents. You don't hear that really with Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan is more than like, hey, I'll give you a hometown discount. What about the fact that Kobe, how much did he take recently?
Basically all the payroll. But
he took all the payroll, and you would have never seen that from a guy like TD or even before him.
Tim Duncan's never got a coach fired after 5 games, but I think in this day and age it's a lot harder for big men to be successful in this NBA, and we've seen Tim Duncan flourish near the end of his career. So I think really going down towards the end, at the end of this race, Tim Duncan's ahead.
Not by much, though, right?
Not by much. Kobe Bryant has had a very spectacular career.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when that ball is in his hands, I'm biting fingernails, and I'm like, oh, no, here we go. 1 second left, and then...
Well, he's putting out a Wizards Jordan-esque kind of season right now.
But, he's still putting up the numbers, though. I mean, really.
Yeah, but not efficiently.
Not efficiently. Well, wow. Tim Duncan, by much or not?
Just by a little bit right now, but I think that's how it's going to end.
All right. Well, those are our thoughts on that debate right there. Who had the better career, TD or Kobe Bryant? But, with the Spurs season underway, don't forget to go out to ProjectSpurs.com and, of course, News 4 San Antonio and as well as Fox 29 San Antonio. We got you covered, seriously, Everything you need to know about the Spurs is on those 3 sites. Please go
Spurscast.
visit them. Yeah, but don't forget, his baby, the Spurs Cast, which is a very fun thing. But anyway, for Aaron Prine, I am Jeff Garcia. Thanks again for watching this episode of the Spurs Roundtable. I always wanted to do this. See you later, everybody. Always wanted to do that.